Namaskar and welcome to India Science. In our endeavor to promote science to the masses, we bring to you a new program, Science Celeste, on the occasion of India at 75, Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav. And joining me today is Secretary, Department of Science and Technology and Department of Biotechnology, a first of its kind. Thank you very much, ma'am, Dr. Renu Swaroop. Thank you so much. Many thanks for having spared your time. I would like to take you back to this historic moment on October 21st, when the billionth dose of COVID was administered, and our Honorable Prime Minister applauded the efforts of the COVID warriors and the health line workers, and he really praised them. And I think primarily the credit goes to the Department of Biotechnology. Take us back through that 1 year.
Thank you very much, Nidhi. It's a pleasure to be with you. And yes, you rightly said it. On 21st October, it was a momentous day for every Indian. It was a momentous day for us because we brought in the 100 crore dose for vaccination. And yes, the Honorable Prime Minister said it's a triumph of science. So, it's a triumph of science for every scientist, every researcher, every person, every citizen of the country, because they contributed. We could not have done the vaccination if they had not come forward. The Department of Biotechnology has played a very important steering role, but this is an important day not just for the Department of Biotechnology, for every stakeholder who's been involved in it, every agency that we worked with it, the academia, the research institutes, the industry. And I do feel very pleased and proud of the fact that this department has been able to lead this effort. And for the vaccination, the Honorable Finance Minister had on 9th November last year announced under the Atmanirbhar Bharat package the mission COVID Suraksha. And that is what has made this possible, to take it across the country, new vaccine development, new ecosystem development, reaching not just national but also global recognition. So, it's a very proud moment for all of us.
Absolutely, and a humongous feat as well, a momentous moment for all of us to remember. It has indeed scripted history. Here I take you back to vaccine development, Zy-Cov-D and the other vaccines that are in India's basket of vaccines. I'd like you to enlighten all of us and take us through what are the huge vaccine developments that have taken place in this last 1 year.
So, this whole journey over the COVID times, over 18 months is very unique, because generally when we would look at vaccine development, we would have the researchers, the stakeholders, the scientists working towards it. Here we had such an active participation of the media, and you people have played a very important role in taking science to the public. Yes, you are right. When I think last year we met, we spoke about the basket of vaccines that India is committed to, the portfolio of vaccines, and we are very pleased about the fact that it was actually India which had put out very early a roadmap. In February 2020, when we had the first meeting of the WHO to develop the blueprint, the India roadmap was presented. And we started our efforts to develop vaccines since then. We initially began with all academic institutes, startups, industry, and as we moved into the year and we got more understanding, there were more than 15 vaccine candidates that we were supporting. We continue to support many of them, but vaccine development is a very complex process. It's from development, discovery, through the translation field, then to product development, and everyone knows now phase 1 trials, phase 2 trials, phase 3 human trials. It has to go through that process. We are very pleased that today this 100 crore vaccination in India is through Indian manufactured vaccines. That's a very proud moment. We have, of course, the Covaxin, which got the emergency use authorization in January. the Covishield, which got the emergency use authorization, which is again manufactured in India. Then we moved on to Sputnik, which is an India-Russia partnership. And then of course, very recently we had the world's first DNA vaccine, ZyCoV-D, which is by Zydus Cadila, again one of our very important mission COVID Suraksha product. We have many others which are in the late stages of development, and very soon, in couple of weeks, you'll start seeing them rolling out. We have the Corbevax, which is by Biological E. We have the India indigenous mRNA vaccine being developed by Genova. The uniqueness is it's at a 2 to 8 degrees. So, you do not need a very ultra cold logistic supply systems to deliver it. We then have the first nasal vaccine again being developed by Bharat Biotech. Many others in the preclinical stage. We have from Indian Institute of Science a thermostable vaccine which is being looked at. So, many of them. The advantage has been that because we had this portfolio of vaccines, it gave us the strength and the confidence to say we will have many vaccines rolling out. It gave the confidence to our citizens to say we have, and as we have said, a COVID Suraksha that was put to us, and that is very aptly named COVID Suraksha. It provides the Suraksha to the citizens, and we hope it will have many more rolling out very soon.
Absolutely. You mentioned a vast basket of vaccines, ma'am. Very recently, the Prime Minister chaired a meeting with all the vaccine developers and manufacturers, and one concern among most people is the supply of vaccines. You spoke about Sputnik and also regulated for children, the Indo-Russian partnership. What is the supply chain vertical looking like?
So, let me put some facts correctly. The Sputnik is yet to get the clearance for the children. What we have right now is the only one which has been given the emergency use authorization for children is the ZyCoV-D. That's the one which has been given. The others are in trials. The Bharat Biotech's Covaxin has also been recommended by the subject expert committee. The DCGI is still looking at the data before they give out, but many other trials happening. The Sputnik is starting its trials, Genova for the mRNA is starting its trials, the Corbevax has already got its permission for trials. So, we will have now very soon again a portfolio of vaccines for children as well. As regards the supply chain, you have already seen the large numbers which have happened, and those will only go up because both Covishield and Covaxin have been scaling up their manufacturing capacities, and we have been able to see that in our immunization program. Sputnik, we have the partners in India for the manufacturing, and each of them is now working out to scale up their production line. They are of course now looking at Sputnik Light as the new one, which is just the first dose currently of the Sputnik V. So, if that happens, you will have a larger supply chain. ZyCoV-D, yes, DNA vaccines are not simple. So, it is taking time before the production scale up. We do have a limited supply right now, but we are hopeful very soon it will work out. These manufacturers are also discussing with other manufacturers who can take up the scale up. So, one is the developing and then the other is the manufacturing. So, I think generally there has been a lot of discussion. A very good roadmap has been developed, and for the next 6 months the manufacturing, keeping with the requirements, is already being tied up in discussion with the Ministry of Health and others that are part of this whole system.
Absolutely, ma'am. You spoke very correctly about the supply chain and how the roadmap is ahead. But if I ask about healthy volunteers who are, they after all human beings, so how tough are the protocols? Because we've been told that you've had a series of regulations in place where every protocol was kind of taken care of. In a layman's language, what is emergency use authorization?
Okay, so that's a very good question, important for our viewers to understand that we have in fact, it's history actually that you've never ever been able to get a vaccine in less than a year. And we've had vaccines which take about 10 years, take 14 years, and in this case you're looking at a vaccine in about 12 months. So, obviously the first thought that goes in is, have we rushed into it? Has there been an accelerated process? Yes, there has been an accelerated process, but we have not rushed into anything. We have ensured that there are all regulatory protocols followed, every step of the regulation has been abided by. The regulator has played a very important role. In fact, Department of Biotechnology along with the regulator, because the RCGM is governed by the Department of Biotechnology, which looks at the first aspect of the research development clearances before they move into clinical trials, brought out a rapid response guideline, and this was done somewhere in April 2020 when we knew that these vaccines will roll out. What that does is, that doesn't compromise on any quality. It only allows parallel analysis of data, so that you sort of save time rather than doing it sequentially. In addition, this is a very unique way in which we've done vaccine development. We've had sharing of knowledge, sharing of experience, not just amongst researchers, but even regulators. So, one regulator has been able to understand what the other regulators globally have done, and those best practices, that data has been shared, which is very unique again. Normally, you do not have regulatory data which is shared in terms of helping to take on decisions. The other important factor that we have done is, under Mission COVID Suraksha and the DBT BIRAC consortium, we have actually set up a shared infrastructure. So, you have access to animal challenge facilities, you have access to immunogenicity laboratories and 54 clinical trial sites. So, you spoke about volunteers. That is a challenge when you have to do multiple trials. How do you get so many volunteers? So, we have 54 clinical trial sites in place, and most of them now being used by these manufacturers for the clinical trials. Each one of them goes through their regulatory processes. There are ethical guidelines to be followed, ethical guidelines to be approved, and that is what they do. So, all that I would like to re-emphasize to the viewers is, we have done it with speed, we have done it through collaboration, we have connected with all the stakeholders, but we have not compromised on any quality, and that is how you see the emergency use authorization. After going through all the data, it has been examined, the robustness of the data has been examined, only then has the regulator given you the emergency use authorization.
Absolutely. Another question that I'd like to ask you now is the concern of most people in India. When we look at the global perspective and the high COVID surges that are going on presently, even as we speak, we see India abating it all. And if we talk of booster shots, Pfizer in US is already talking about it. When do you think India could perhaps look at a booster shot, ma'am?
Decisions regarding booster, etc., all have to be driven based on the scientific data that we get, the analysis that we have. In this respect, I can only say that studies are currently on within the country for booster, for mixing of the vaccines, for different aspects. Right now, we do not have sufficient scientific data to say that a booster needs to be given, because we are already studying the antibody response, how it wanes off, what is the immunity level of an individual, because it is not only by the antibodies that you can assess it, and that needs to be studied to see when do you actually need to have a booster. So, those studies are on within the country. The ENTAGI subcommittee, that we have the scientific subcommittee which is chaired by myself and Secretary DHR. So, the ENTAGI working group has been examining it. Our subcommittee has been looking at the data. When there is enough data to take any decision, that will go to the ENTAGI, and then decision would be taken, but it is a little early at this moment.
Absolutely. Coming to my next question, I want some insights on BIRAC and what are the new innovations happening. Are we looking at something other than pandemics? Are we looking at innovation? Are VCs collaborating to come forward for seed funding?
That's a very interesting point that you made. So, let me say that BIRAC is a public sector, a wholly owned company of the Department of Biotechnology, set up by the Government of India in 2012 to create an innovation ecosystem, which allowed the startups, the entrepreneurs, the industry academia to connect. The whole purpose was to spur innovation in the country, to be able to create an ecosystem which allows us to be the best, the global best, and to bring in an enhancement in terms of the scale at which you look at the biotech industry. It's because of this that today we've been able to, with a lot of conviction, say that by 2025 we will have a biotech industry to the size of 150 billion. Today we are roughly around about 80 to 85. We'll probably touch 90 by the end of this year, but that's the number we are looking at. This ecosystem, we had actually created a very robust one. We had a national biopharma mission which the government had approved in 2018. This is the one that responded to the challenge of the pandemic. So today when you see BIRAC responding, you see BIRAC bringing out diagnostics, you see BIRAC supporting companies to bring out vaccines, and not just financial support. It's a full ecosystem support, from mentoring to connecting to helping global collaborations. This has been because there is strength within that ecosystem to work for innovations. The pandemic has been seen by the world, so you recognize it. But there are many startups that we've got now in the agriculture sector, other areas of biopharma, industrial, clean energy sector. Very recently you must have heard about the Earthshot prize that one of our startups got. I think there were 5 globally, which was given in the UK. That startup is supported by BIRAC in its clean energy incubator that we've set up under the Mission Innovation, and that's very much in Delhi. That's started with the Tata Power. We have many such startups. We started with just less than 500. We have over 5,000 now. Startups who've had investors coming forward. We just have a startup who's been invested in for an artificial organ. He's looking at regenerated cornea, and you've had him taking Series A, Series B, many funds which have come in because there is technical strength in that startup. So I think things have changed. The government has come forward. The government has, BIRAC has actually put in funds into early stage investments. We've created a fund of funds. We have about 14 investors who have come forward as partners in the fund of funds. The government has already very clearly shown that we are with you. A part of the Startup India Action Plan, which the Honorable Prime Minister announced in 2016. We are ready to take risks with you. So the moment the government becomes a partner for risk mitigation, you have many others who come forward to take it on, and we really see huge potential for this sector to grow.
Absolutely. Tell us something about your heading an organization called NEGVAC, if I'm not wrong, and CEPI. What are the new spectrum that you look at here?
So I'm a member of NEGVAC. It's chaired by Dr. V.K. Paul, who's the member Science Niti Aayog, and you have co-chaired by the Secretary Health, and you have members from all different secretaries from ministries, Secretary of Pharma, Secretary METI, many other secretaries, DHR, and seniors from the state health departments. NEGVAC was set up by the Ministry of Health to bring in a body or a group that looks at decision making for the vaccine administration. And you've seen the vaccine administration program, so that's where decisions were taken. So all ENTAGI and other decisions would go to the NEGVAC and they would take a decision. CEPI, on the other hand, is a body that was set up by international partners. India was one of the founding members. This was set up in 2017, Coalition for Epidemic Preparedness. Nobody spoke about pandemics then, it was always epidemic preparedness. That if we are faced with a situation where we have an epidemic, how do we develop a vaccine for a disease X, as they called it? Today we put COVID in that disease X, it could be something else tomorrow. But the fact is, India became a partner. We launched an IND-CEPI, that is our India component, and today at COVID times we've partnered so much to bring out most of these vaccines. So you see, investments that we make today may not have relevance as we speak, but it may have an impact 3 years down the line. In 2017, we were preparing for a war by a virus. We didn't know that will happen. When the war actually came in 2020, we were prepared for it with our investments in place. So that's the power of decision making, that's the power of policies, and that's the power of early thinking and imagining what you would need to invest in.
Absolutely, foresight, as you said. My next question would be on DST. As you are Secretary DST, how do you look at women not breaking the glass ceiling but actually shattering it?
It's been a pleasure to take on this additional charge of DST for a short while, and thoroughly enjoyed this time that I've worked with the DST and its officials, and of course the Department of Biotechnology, which I've been for nearly 33 years now. I think, let me say this, Nidhi, I would say whether you call it shattering or whether you call it breaking, I think it's all about shattering and breaking your own internal inhibitions. It's not about breaking glass ceilings to that level, as it's your own power that you have, your own inherent quality that women scientists and women have, which many a times we do not recognize. The moment you overcome that apprehension, you look internally, you identify what your strength is, then there's no looking back, because then you're there in the mainstream. And at that point of time, if you have the power and conviction in yourself, nothing holds you back, even if it is, as they say, a glass ceiling or whatever it may be. There is a lot of strength. We've seen women doing so beautifully in all fields because they have those inherent capacities. I think what we need to do now is, rather than looking at how do you get women to break glass ceilings, look at how do you look at building a strong foundation. Empower them, give them those leadership qualities, give them that understanding of how they can recognize their strengths, and give them a level playing field to come forward and perform. You'll see them doing wonders, which they're already doing. The potential is immense, and you will see, even now where we see that slight difference in numbers, which we say gender diversity, you should have, a balance of the numbers. You'll see this happening soon. And then it will be important for us to see how do we maintain a gender diversity. You may soon have women overtaking the men. So it's important to maintain a gender diversity, both men and women, as we move on.
Absolutely. And I just remember that I read a very beautiful quote the other day by Sadhguru, and he said, "Teach your daughters not to look at the moon, but to rise like the moon." I thought it was really wonderful and very apt with what you said. And here my next question to you would be, what is your message to millennia? How do they engage in science, and what are the kind of activities that we could do to take science engagement further? What is your vision for this?
We would always talk to the youth to tell them that science has very, very interesting avenues for you to go ahead. The pandemic brought challenges, but the pandemic also brought one opportunity for us, and that is to let people know what science can offer, how science is so closely related to society. So my only message to them is, of course, do what your heart wants you to do, go ahead with what your ambitions are, but take science with you as it moves on, because there is science in everything that you do. Any decision making must have a scientific basis and an analysis, whether it's any field that you're taking ahead. But science has a lot of interesting avenues. The government has launched a number of schemes where we are promoting young students, whether it's the DST Inspire or the Manak program that we took on for augmenting and bringing forward million minds. The Department of Biotechnology we have our Sitare program. Avsar is there for it. Then you have large number of them. I mean, you can't even name them. Vigyan Jyoti for the girl students, and Vigyan Pratibha, Vigyan Jyoti. So there are so many. The DBT has the BioCare. So there are ample opportunities. You just have to pick and identify your path. And today the government is working so closely with the remote universities, schools, district level, to see that we can tap the potential where it is, nurture it and make it bloom. Because if we have to be a nation which is recognized for its innovation, it's recognized for its human resource, each flower in this nation has to bloom, and we have to recognize those buds to help them to bloom. and that's what we are trying to work for.
Absolutely. And as you mentioned, we had a very beautiful conference the other day of Vigyan Prasar on scope of regional languages, which I think is very, very important to get that last message across to that last place, whether it's in Leh Ladakh or it's in Kanyakumari or any other place like that. In the end, I'd like you to give a message to India as the festive season is coming up. How do they stay safe and all that note?
So my only message to them is, you have come forward, you have sort of done away with your vaccine hesitancy. That is why we have these 100 crore. But remember one thing, COVID has not gone. We still have the virus amongst us. COVID appropriate behavior is the mantra that has to be followed. Even if you are vaccinated with all your doses, do not forget that the virus behavior is not understood by many of us still. It mutates. What we have in our control is the human behavior. If we control ourselves, we can overcome the virus. So do that, stay safe, enjoy your festivals, but maintaining the COVID norms. I'm sure we will collectively fight this war, not just for the country, but for the world.
And on that note, thank you so much for joining us. And with this is the wrap of this edition of Science Celeste. Stay tuned, keep watching India Science. Namaskar.